Context is not constraint, it's a collaboration. I'm architect Karan Anand, introducing you to season 1, episode 1 of Moñö Dialogues, brought to you by brand partners Classic Marble Company. Hi guys, I'm so excited to finally have you all here on our first ever Moñö Dialogues. So let's deep dive into this conversation directly. Post-colonization and during the British colonization, right, there was a rise of modernism, especially in our country. Yet designers like Doshi, Charles Correa, Laurie Baker, Nari Gandhi, they grounded their modernism through Indian materiality and expressions. I feel like in today's day and age, there is some rift in this thought process and mentality, and I feel like we're drifting away from that ideology. Could you share some insights on what you feel about this?
So I believe initially it was a kind of an imposition on our country, and later it happened to be an invitation, which then later transpired to be kind of a mosaic of both the blends. Yeah. So at this point of time, you get to see a lot of modernist designs as well as something which is rooted within our country, and that's something which is extremely beautiful, and that also allows all of us to sort of diversify and sort of dive into the possibilities of how we can identify materials. Essentially it was brick versus concrete. That's how you differentiate. Yeah. And at this point of time, I think everyone is sort of leaning towards organic architecture, organic design. But at the end of the day, it's also about the kind of amalgamation of technology with organic materials.
I think I agree with Rahul when he says that it was kind of imposed initially, but beautifully handled by the architects then, like B.V. Doshi and Correa, and they did a really impactful amalgamation of raw concrete brickwork. They really beautifully put it together. They, in some places, some architects brought in the glass, but then shaded it with the jali. Yeah. So the materiality that the Indian context had was not given up completely, and that still inspires architects like us. And at Alkove, we really strive that we can keep the balance up, and we are going the organic way, but it's not completely into it also. So we have to strike the balance. We have to find the right fit when it comes to choosing the materials.
I think in today's day and age, like contemporary, in our contemporary style, it's kind of a mix between the modernist way and kind of today's day. We're merging the materials of what used to be there and what's now, and kind of sticking to the Indian context. I think that's very important. We do take in materials from what is locally available. I think that's really important to follow. But it's kind of a mix and match, between the two. And kind of, it's been a progression, a seamless kind of progression from what was and what is now.
I think, just post-independence, the entire institutional work that really defined modern architecture in India was defined by, say, Charles Correa, Louis Kahn, B.V. Doshi. So that sort of is what was taught to us initially as architecture when started. So it became a large part of what we identified with modernist architecture in India. But I think what happens is, like with the economy growing, we had that modern architecture, and then we had a lot of influx of a lot of information from different styles, whether it was Art Deco, whether it was Bauhaus, whether it was all of that. So it sort of became a mix of everything that everyone was trying. So Indian materiality, whatever could adapt to that, worked. And then now we are sort of just going back to understanding why we used a couple of materials, why it worked, in what context it worked. So I think the questioning around why it was used during the modern period of whether it's concrete and brick, it was also because of the cost effectiveness and the availability. Yeah. Now the economy is very different. So which is why the confusion of like why are we using so many different materials, and also if you go back, we're also going back to crafts that were way before independence, British era, pre-Brit era. we're trying to understand, what sort of is ours, what we like about it, and what sort of emotion it brings about. So I think that's where you are seeing a lot of mix of materials being used.
Yeah. And also when you all talk about this amalgamation of two worlds, right? All of your practices, that's why we are all here together, the four of your practices. There's a fine line where we look at it and we know it is your practice, yet there is so much such a diverse portfolio that each of you all have. Each project is different to the other. We come from a certain time where we always look at, say, again, since we're talking about, say, Doshi or Nari Gandhi or all of these guys, they had a certain fixed agenda towards their projects, right? Whereas now, with you all sitting here, we have so much differentiation in projects, like each one is different from the other. So what is the reasoning behind this? Is this a direction that you have taken intentionally? Could you just walk us through this? It would be amazing to get your answers.
Rahul, do you want to go first?
We can change it up.
Okay, all right. So I think right now when we're looking at our practice, for me, site context and client context becomes really important. So why the projects look varied is because you look at it in a very independent way. Like you're sort of looking at that project only for the project. What are you trying to get that out of it? So it's not a style that is, or a look that is enforced on, which is why you're sort of looking at that context of the project and figuring out what is the best materials to use, what is the best design language do you want to work with. So I think that's why the projects look very, very different. And the challenge is, you sort of do the R&D for that project, right? And it's challenging because you're learning new things. If I were doing very minimal projects, once in a while now we do maximum work. And it's really not comfort, but it's good to get out of that and sort of learn the tricks of it.
I think for us, we've kind of, again, I would second what you just said, is that client context as well as site context is very important. I think we definitely, look at the space around us and then kind of, design our, like say the interior projects, for example, we kind of take from the outer side and then we put it inside, it's kind of looking both ways. And also I think our practice, like we are very diverse in the kind of language we use. I think like say bungalow projects, for example, or say in Goa, that context is very important. In a space like Bombay, which is very kind of metropolitan, very say skyscrapers and like high rises, not too much of site context is there. So it's kind of, we do go a little bit more on the contemporary, modern, sort of an aesthetic. We do try and we do enjoy still using like natural materials and like local materials, but it's in a very sort of very contemporary, modern take on it. Whereas, like in a little more of a traditional space, like say for example, in a bungalow in Goa, it would be more of like sticking to that, a bit of that traditional architecture, but then still bringing in that little bit of contemporary touch to it.
Since the inception of our studio, we were lucky enough to be getting different typologies of projects, and we've been absolutely a go-getter to engage. And what we eventually discovered is that with every project we happen to do our own recce to understand as to how we wish to take it up, only deepened our understanding of how in the future we may want to look at this particular typology of project. So also, as I mentioned earlier, that in our country we have a kind of a mosaic of different blends that also allows us to understand, explore, and then sort of radicalize the entire proposition to our client. That's how we've tried to establish a kind of a very diverse portfolio. We've been extremely thrilled about every project that has come, may it be an installation, a product, may it be an experience center. We've engaged totally just to understand, because initially when you kickstart a project or kickstart your own practice, if we just go back time, you are fully charged and you'll give your 100%. You'll have that adrenaline rush into you that you want to give your best shot. And then that's how we sort of arrived where more and more different typologies of projects came in. And to be honest, when we talk about diversity, it is actually a mix and match of a lot of different design languages too.
Yeah.
So frankly, we are yet to identify ourselves in that, but I think that's what we are good at.
Yeah.
To sort of not repeat and reproduce something that we've done in the past. And I think that's something which I've just understood during this trip, because I had a great pep talk with my friend here, and that only helped me to understand that I think, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for us, I think it's we've been blessed with multiple typologies again. If I could just put it in two typologies, architecture and interior. So architecture comes with context, site context and the client context. Interior, mostly 90-95% just the client context. So for us, we've always centered our designs on these contexts. Luckily, we work in almost like 13-14 cities now in the country. So the site context changes drastically. So it gives us a lot of scope to add our thoughts and put our designs together. The one thing that we constantly just try to do is add some element of craft, Indian craft, traditional craft, handicraft, some artist coming up with some kind of designs that we would like to involve. That's our like we say, like a niche, or something that we are trying to, a design language that we are trying to establish. And when it comes to naming it, we like to call it traditional modern Indian design. So that is where we bring in our expertise or our design sensibilities. But otherwise the project is the hero, the context is the hero, the clients are the soul of the project. They have to use the space eventually. So that is how we have diversified. But also, if you see, there is a single thread that's running through all our projects, and that is what we want to take forward. That is what we wanted to speak as loud as possible. So it's a very subtle addition, and for diversification, we love it. We really love it. We do not want to box ourselves into certain design language, because it's impossible to stay in one design language. We want to explore. There are so many opportunities. I think back then, maybe 20-30 years ago, the projects that used to come to architects were very less. The quantity was very less. Now the number of people who want architects on board has increased, immensely, and we should be, taking most advantage of all these things. So that is why diversification is something that we love.
So, since you've given me these answers about site context and how you have varied practices and all of that, I wanted to, so good practices, right, in any field, right, have a source of inspiration, some form of creativity. And we have a lot of young viewers, graduates from colleges, some who are still studying. And I keep getting this question, we can't think anymore, we don't have concepts, we don't have ideations, how do we move forward? Rahul, for example, you had a background in music. Which I found out about, and you use that as a source of inspiration as well to design your projects. So could you all tell me about how you get your source of inspiration and how you keep going? Because doing one good project, doing two good projects, doing three good, and then it suddenly becomes a rut, but your practices defy that odd, and each project that comes out inevitably looks unique to the other with the connection to your practice. Could you walk us through that?
I've always been in a state of awe whenever I've, for example, heard a particular genre of music or a particular song by a particular band. I would be curious to visualize and imagine as to how exactly is the music video going to be of this particular song. And for me, Pink Floyd was a kind of a eye-opener, because when I started listening to their music, when I started watching their concerts, it just blown me. The way the songs used to navigate in your mind, especially the kind of solos that they used to play. Those songs were 24-minute long songs, and you just are in a state of trance. And I also found out that two of the band members were architects.
Yes.
So that sort of inspired me a lot. I started playing, I used to play the guitar back then. I also had a band of mine. So I always used to imagine spaces. That's how I got so connected with design, because at any given point of time, if even I'm writing the simplest of the song, which is my own composition, I would only and only imagine spaces. It so happened that it led to the movie watching experiences, a Christopher Nolan movie with a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, and hence I would request everyone, or rather want everyone, to pursue their passions, because somehow those hobbies and those passions will actually inspire you and engage you to actually practice your main profession in a way which will transpire in the most beautiful manner.
And this reply actually takes me back to college, when we were studying, our faculties would be like, conceptualize, ideate, listen to music, watch a film. And now, it makes me sad as well, because, we don't have the time. I don't have the time to do that anymore. And I'm going to do it now, because it's so sad that we let it go, and we're just stuck in the rut of it.
But it's very important to, keep coming back to all these inspirational sources and keep aligning to what really, really relates with you, because we also didn't find the time. But recently we've made sure that we attend live performances. Be it musicals or dance performances or plays, so we make sure we, look for it. We've traveled for it, gone to Jodhpur for a 3-day festival and everything. So for us, it is really rooted in any kind of performing arts, and also the traditional craft that we were speaking about. It really inspires us, because the courage that you require in in a country like India to keep the art alive, to still practice what's almost fading away, and pass it on to your generations. So the sheer courage that these artisans show, I think when you put that together with your understanding and of design and art of any form, and let it brew inside you, just literally let it brew inside you. How much like there's so much discipline, there's so much power in what these artisans do, and then there's so much free flowing energy in all the performing arts. When you combine it together, when you let yourself be with it, it really inspires you to do something great with your own designs, because those are things that have been practiced for generations, right? This is something gifted to you. You like some architecture, interior design, and putting things together. You have the gift of understanding what people need, translating it into something so tangible. So these are our sources of inspiration: performing arts and the artisans of India.
That's beautiful.
I want to ask you, so do you have a song for every project of yours?
Okay, great.
Like that was very interesting. So I was like, wow, okay.
Yes.
So do you have like a song for this project?
So whenever I listen to any song which apparently is just stuck in my head, I try to connect the dots.
Okay.
So what I try doing is to first find out more about the artist, his early days, how is it that they navigate, and obviously there are certain bands like the Beatles where I happen to see where they started and how they matured over a period of time, and that is what I am trying to implement into my own design. There were songs which were extremely peppy, and then there were some very, very, very thought-provoking songs by the Beatles in the later stage. At this point of time in my practice, to answer your question, yes. For every project, there is something which is there. It could be a kind of a backing track going on in my head, and I meant it. I ensure that I have that eventually packaged. So whenever I package my project, I try and give credits to all of that, all of the music that I've heard. And in fact, I try and improvise on it. And then I also make it a part of the project. If in case it's videographed, then that is the track that you will hear in my project.
Okay.
That's how it's been. And also that's my humble request, or rather a plea to all the youngsters, since he just mentioned, is that whether it is music or whether it's movie watching, or whether it's theatre, or whether it's fashion for that matter, I think you can still connect all the dots, because even with fashion, it leads you to the creative side of how
Yeah.
it was sort of thought, and that's something which I believe is only going to lead you to seriously pursue what you're doing.
That's interesting.
I'd like to
go ahead.
add that any form of creative field or any form of art requires the understanding that it's a journey.
Yeah.
We are all trying to arrive somewhere very desperately, and I think that has to be somewhere re-looked at. It's a journey,
Yeah.
and you have to be very conscious on that journey. I think that is what he's been able to achieve. It's quite incredible if you are being able to really identify which song, what kind of music, and what inspires you, and then put it together with your project. I'm sure it's a fulfilling feeling. It's amazing.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
But so far, the post-production isn't. We haven't been able to nail it
Yeah.
as much as Karan has been able to.
Yeah. It's interesting because you brought about like fashion and movies, because I think like for me, when I think of projects, it's like characterization of who's going to use it. It's like an insane world where I just sort of imagine what's going to happen. So I put myself in their shoe. It's like a whole thing that runs in my head. It comes from reading a lot while I was young. Now it's movies. Now you take inspiration from random things. Sometimes it's even a trash movie, or but you just sort of see how is this going to be used, what is going to make the person feel. So that's how I imagine that. So if it's a family using a home, I sort of see what can the space do for them, how can it make them feel, and if that changes, how their life changes. So and then the materials and that whole feel comes. But I genuinely feel when I go on the final day, do I get that feeling, or if the client gets that feeling, I think then it's a win.
That's lovely.
That's so
Yeah.
I think for us, I mean, I've always, got inspiration from Tadawando. That's where we first kind of learned of him. And the moment I saw like the structures and all done by him, I was just absolutely awestruck. Like it was just like that moment of like you just see his structures and you're kind of imagining yourself walking through it, and that those little slivers of light coming through is just incredible. And I feel like the emotion that creates. I feel like emotion plays a huge role in like
Yes.
whatever we
Yeah.
do, and I think it's super important to our practice as well. So for us, I think very similar to what you said, that we always imagine what the client will kind of feel moving through the space, whether that be an architectural place or like an interior design project, even if it's really tiny or even if it's a really large scale project.
Yeah.
I think that's and kind of like the play of light and shadow, or like how the light will come in during the evening, or like how it kind of transitions through the day, and like that just gives it'll change the whole space, as the days go by, as the months go by, depending upon the weather. So it's kind of like taking inspiration from nature and also keeping like emotion as a very at the forefront of design.
Lovely. And I don't think you'll realize, but each one of you all has given such a psychological answer.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you spoke about how individuals feel in this space.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling very happy because I feel like I've curated this panel perfectly. Because all of your answers are kind of merging into each other. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Now we're going to play a game, and we're going to have the two of them in one team and the two of you in one team. I'm going to give you 3 cards, and you have to get her to guess, and you have to get him to guess, right? And depending on who gets the more guesses wins the game. Okay, they're all
Okay,
architecturally driven. Okay, so your time starts now.
High-rise buildings used for fire,
Skyscrapers,
fire extinguishing.
like a crane.
Multiple of them are used in one apartment also. Very small size.
Or
Another guess.
ducts.
No?
Okay, time's up.
Okay.
Very important tool for carpenter.
So,
No.
hammer.
Hammer. It's a shape,
Okay.
not a square, not a triangle.
Circle.
No, somewhere in
Diamond?
between.
Somewhere in
A
between.
square and a triangle.
With a 3 side and a 4 side.
4.
Rectangle.
No.
Diamond. What?
Trapezoid.
Okay.
This is a very ornate. Imagine a transition that you kind of walk through. It's ornate and it's rounded at the top,
Arch.
And
Arcade.
ornate.
Ornate.
Arch is correct, but ornate.
The capital.
Kind of
Type.
architecture is it?
Type of
Gothic
It
art.
was
Oh.
type.
Okay, what do you need in your house to fix something? Say if your light is broken, what do you step on?
A ladder.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, this is an animated guy who builds things, animated like cartoon character, who builds things, who like kids watch. He has like colorful dump trucks
Okay, I know.
and he wears like a helmet on his
I
head.
know. His name is, he's a yellow color
Yeah.
guy, right?
Thank you.
So it's,
Bob the
it's
Builder.
1-1. It's 1-1, right?
Yeah.
Since it's a tie, I will now try to get you all to guess this word.
Okay.
And whichever team guesses it wins, alright?
Done.
So it's used by contractors, it's used to
Reasons for not doing
measure
work.
things.
Measuring
Measure
tape.
tape.
Laser tag.
No, measuring tape. Who said it first?
Sneha.
Sneha said it
Yeah, I
first.
think you got it.
Okay. I think, sorry
I was just
Bombay,
like,
but you all
like,
have
I'm gonna say
lost.
something.
Well done, Komal and
non-Bombay.
Sneha.
Yeah,
Sneha,
thank you.
Sneha, I'm
Okay.
saying.
Yeah.
That was a fun game. Well done, guys. You all have won. I was rooting for you all, obviously. Sorry, guys. Okay. So, coming back to our conversation, Mies obviously very famously said that less is more, right? And we come from a country where more is more. Howsoever, there is a fine line between over-defining spaces to maximalism and kind of balancing it out with a certain minimalist sensibility. And again, I'm asking this question because each and every one of your practice reflects that. It's a minimalist base followed by maximalist applications in various innuendos, right? So, could you tell us about how you kind of fine-tune your projects and what it means to you? The contrast between maximalism, minimalism, and what minimalism in India means.
Actually, I look up to Big's philosophy of yes is more.
Wow.
Because unlike less is more, that's yes is more. And I think that's more, prevalent in our
Yeah.
context. Because they do want to take care of all the basics, and our basics are quite a lot. So which means that's where you are definitely having a lot of functionalities into the entire space. It's not as minimal, but I think in terms of aesthetics, we do try and make it more monolithic, more neutral. That's how we try and achieve both of it.
Lovely.
I think for us, I think just the design language I feel is evolving every day. I feel like now I feel drawn towards the maximalist, like pattern on pattern, or like I feel like experimenting with that. Even though yes, we do stick to like a more of a neutral kind of minimalist backdrop, and then we kind of add the maximalist details in the detailing, like in the smaller little pieces or like maybe textures or something like that. But I am drawn now to like the maximalist kind of forms, and I do want to bring a little bit more of that into our our design language. So yeah, I think it's again like a amalgamation of the two worlds.
For me, I think of minimalism as some sort of clarity or decluttering, right? So I feel like there is a phase in someone's life that you probably want to do, or it's a space that probably needs it. So it goes back to being contextual, or if the person feels like, okay, that's what works for them, then, we try and sort of cut down and then just bring in a few elements. And maximalist also is a completely different way of sort of looking at a space, and it's something that I've only started doing the last few years. It's also something that I feel like if the space demands it, right? We're doing a jewelry store or like a boutique or an art antique collector's home. There is no way I can do, minimalist, but when you want to sort of showcase all of it, so I think maximalist works beautifully there.
Yeah.
So I think it is contextual. I don't think there's a right and a wrong. You just sort of work based on what your client and what your site sort of needs and what your client needs at that point in time. So I don't really think everyone thinks through that many years. It's a journey, like you had pointed out earlier. It's a journey in a person's life, and sometimes you are drawn to a certain style of design, and you say, oh, look, it's beautiful, it's stuff. But once you do it, you admire something else, and it's okay.
So for us, minimalism comes through with the materials. We do not like using many materials, and we stick to a certain color palette and material palette. So we like to strike that balance. Maybe it's a very overused word, balance, but it really shows when you're like she said, in the backdrop, if the materiality is very very minimal, then all these details get enhanced, and our effort is always towards just evoking the right amount of emotion in everything.
Yeah.
If a corner requires that maximalism, it requires, and if it fits well with the entire minimal space around, then it really speaks for itself. So I think they really can go hand in hand. We need not look at them separately, that minimalism versus maximalism. You
That's
can
lovely.
put it in bits and parts, and you can evoke emotions here and there, and then leave it to the user. Let it flow, where they can shift or add. So they also get some scope over the years to add some elements, when you leave the backdrop to be very minimal. So that's how we look at it.
Typically, Karan, the wish list is never minimal.
Correct.
The list of requirements of a plan is a maximal.
Yeah.
And so therefore, it's very rare to get a project where the list is also a minimalistic list, and we also get to practice the rest of the project in a absolute minimalistic aesthetics.
Yeah.
That's very rare to really find a project of this nature. So therefore, it is either a maximalist and a maximalist, which makes it, oh my god.
Yeah.
And it's either a maximalist with a minimalist approach of aesthetics. That's how I've understood and realized and identified that this is typically the kind of requests which come from the end users.
And I think that you're absolutely right, because I have clients who would find Jaisalmer, terracotta, kota as a maximalist element, and I have clients who would find those very elements as a minimal element. So I think it's in the mind of what the end user is perceiving, rather than say what a minimalist versus a maximalist is, ideally, I think. So thank you for that lovely answer. So we have been discussing the ideation, right? I want to navigate a little bit towards the build, and I want to give a reference of B.V. Doshi in this, since we're talking about Indian materiality and context. So, we'll talk about the Gufa, right? And how he wanted to build an art gallery, and then he built the Gufa, and then he told M.F. Hussain that, come and paint on the walls, because there are no straight walls to hang your art on, which is crazy, right? Because B.V. Doshi is probably the only person on earth who could have told, say, an M.F. Hussain to paint on the walls, and they both amalgamated to those ideas and they loved it. And I feel like in today's practice, right, a lot of practices, we have stopped exploring innovation and detail in build. It is always in, say, a cushion or in a rug or in, say, maybe an arch. But when it comes to the real built form, whether it is in an interior practice or an architectural practice, I feel like maybe there's a gap that has appeared, because we are a little scared, and that we feel like maybe the clients won't accept it, maybe the budget won't do it, it'll take too long. So what do you feel about this?
I'll tell you, because we just worked on a project recently. It was like an architecture project. I was telling that I just started, because we took a bit of break from architecture, and it was an office, marketing office. Now, when a builder does a marketing office, it's usually glossy. They have 100 acres to sell, so they want to sell. So you want to show the premium luxury finishes. So here we had a dialogue with the client that this is a part of Bangalore, which is like Hoskote, which is dry, which is unlike your main luxury market where they're expecting, and it's probably people who are buying their second homes, or something that they're going to retire in, or something as an investment. So why don't we try and think a different approach, right? So here came a sales office or a marketing office, and I'm specifying this project because I feel like how Doshi did that. It's in our very own little way. It was a very different approach to our sales office, right? So it was, we had these glass roofs with these fabrics that sort of create a light and pattern, minimal furniture. So you're sort of going back in, again, I characterize, right? So when I'm going to a space, I want to feel like, okay, this is what's going to be peace, right? And it could have been very earthy, but we sort of went for a very beige look, very zen space. So it's like a, mix of zen. I think anything that sort of brings you a space of like that spa, peace, feel. And I think that worked because it was something that was very different for the builder. And now that it's been about 6-8 months, we've got really great feedback because it's very different from any other office space. So when someone sees, they don't realize it's an office space. A lot of people think it's a resort from the outside. Someone's think it's a kindergarten school, or someone's thought it is, I don't know, because this space could be anything. Someone thought it's a cafe, but it's like a big monolith wall, and you don't know what you're going to expect behind. So otherwise, it's usually these big branding boards. This is, you know, like either it's an art gallery or this is an office you're entering. I think this is left to an imagination, and I think you should try in your own small way to evoke that feeling that the gallery doesn't have to have straight walls, and it could just be someone painted that entire gufa.
For us, I think it was the Courtyard House project in Bangalore. It was a very small plot, like how normally Bangalore plots are, 60-40, 60 feet by 40 feet. And putting a courtyard in that has really, I think, shaken the user, you know, all of them, because we still get asked every single day. It's been 2 years now. And how can you fit a courtyard in 60-40, and what kind of a house is this? Is there like only 2 bedrooms in this house? But that place is just beautiful. Like, I would like to invite all of you to, you know, see that project once. And just the imagination, because earlier courtyards were a part of Indian architecture, up north, down south, everywhere, because of the climatic conditions.
It's a core part of our architecture.
Very, very core
history.
part. But the scale was different at that time. And in a urban setup where the plot sizes are so small, you are surrounded by bungalows all around, and you know the light and ventilation is a problem. So courtyards are in fact more of a need right now, where you bring in the light, you bring in the ventilation from the center of the house, and that is what something we were, I think, very courageous to even attempt, and it has been really, really wonderful. When we go back to that project, we still feel that, oh wow, we've come back home. The users, the owners of the house, they are really happy with what has transpired. With this small step of courage, saying, let's just try once. It doesn't happen only in design, it's fine. And they were, we are thankful that they allowed us to, give it that time and thought and didn't rush us. So I think bringing that back has been one of those things that we, really wanted to, and we could, and it's been a journey from there.
Okay, so taking it to more of an interior design perspective, for us it's kind of been like it stood out more in like a product or like a store design, for example, where we kind of have taken a back seat with the built form, such that the product, or like it could even be like an art piece or like a product or whatever the consumer is whatever the consumer is purchasing, that kind of stands out, while we take a back seat with our built form. So it's like a collaboration between the product and that's like an art piece for us, while ours is just like a background or like a backdrop. So we've done a couple of stores, like a few stores, where we have used that concept, and it's really done well because it just sets the perfect backdrop for what the client is kind of purchasing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
We engaged on a project last year. It was an interesting project. It was a European furniture store. It was essentially an experience center, about I think 10,000 square feet. We had to curate about 4 to 5 brands. Apparently this particular space was in an extremely rundown state. It was in a mill. I think it's about a 150-year-old mill. And so when we checked the site, we realized that there's a lot of restoration work which is required, and hence we dived into restoring it. We also dived into conservation as one of the key concepts of the entire space. Having said that, we had certain brands which may not resonate with the kind of space that we were trying to design. But then it immediately, struck us, is that are we trying to bring in the Brera district here? Are we trying to, design a kind of a backdrop which is essentially the old heritage, something that you want to conserve? Having said that, a few brands did have their reservations on it, but then we layered it very mindfully by getting involved into each and every area, each and every element. There were load-bearing walls. we deplastered them. We started deplastering it. After a while, we realized that there are certain walls which were built recently, which are essentially C4X. So obviously you see the tactile difference between the two. Then we also had a lot of metal into the entire space. Like the columns were in a dilapidated state, the windows were broken. There was a mezzanine where we planned to have the staff, but that we wanted to puncture those load-bearing walls. So we did quite a few, how do I say, we got involved so deep into it that we understood that this is essentially a project which we always wanted to do. It just came as a project, an opportunity where the client, who's also a dear friend of mine, gave us all the liberty. Having said that, such a huge space, if we had to do it in the most sophisticated manner, would have been an absolute criminal act, according to me. And hence we started looking at floor as a absolutely simple quota floor. We started looking at the brick walls as naked brick walls. We started studying the arcades of Europe. So we brought in, those beautiful arch details into the windows. We did those typical crittle windows, which are done essentially in Europe, those MS windows. We started designing the lighting here, which was very important. So we, instead of having a static lighting system, we thought of designing some super loops of different diameters, and we wanted both the sources of lights, direct, diffused, spotlights, etc. So we engaged with Delta Lighting from Belgium, and they were quite thrilled to partner with us, and that's when we ended up installing these huge super loop rings into the premises, I think about 6 meters each.
Wow.
Which I believe is the world's biggest super loop ring. So that was quite thrilling. And then coming to all the brands. So there was one luxury brand which has apparently entered into the furniture sector, is Elisa. They are essentially a fashion apparel brand. So for them it was so difficult to even resonate that, oh my God, this is in a kind of a very heritage, very very old structure. We are trying to bring them in, but eventually we realized that let us introduce one geometrical, dynamic object into the entire premises, and that's when we imposed a kind of a faceted geometry into it, which binded the entire space, whereby it shouted out loud that yes, there is the old and the new together, and in the midst of all of this, we have the brands which are very distinctly standing there and is also making a statement. That was one project which we felt that we've given our 100%, and that is one project which I believe is a kind of a milestone in our portfolio.
Thank you so much for these lovely answers. Before we call it a wrap, we're going to have a little bit of an interrogation that I'm going to do. Agree or disagree. So I'll maybe ask you 3 questions, and we can maybe take your opinion on it. Unbiased and real. Okay. So the first question that I'm going to ask all of you all, and we'll start with you, is design that doesn't serve function is still valid if it evokes emotion.
Agree. For me, design is the primary, functionality is the binary.
Agree with this. Of course, I think it depends upon the kind of project and the kind of context. If it's like a like more of an abstract space, then yeah. Maybe if it's a very, very functional space, then maybe not so much. But overall, I do agree with this.
Absolutely agree. I think it's like wearing couture.
I also agree with this. If it evokes emotion, then the function will be taken care of.
Cultural identity in design is becoming a crutch used too often without true understanding.
I agree, because people are not being able to amalgamate it with context enough and just putting it there literally.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of a problem.
Agree. I think it's like design and mimics life, right? Cultural identity is now a bit of a grey zone in everyone's life. So I think that sort of showcases and.
I agree. We need to eliminate this one very complicated and very insignificant word called fusion. In the name of fusion, all kinds of fusions. So that needs to be a little.
No, I think I agree with this because it is taken a bit completely out of context. It's just like picking from different cultures, picking from different things, and kind of just putting things together without really without it really making sense. So yeah.
AI and digital tools are making design more refined but less human.
True. It will certainly require a bespoke kind of an engagement. AI alone won't be able to cater to all the requirements.
I think AI in certain ways, of course, is really helpful, especially when it comes to like output in terms of say like renderings and stuff like that, where you kind of imagine things. It's a lot more easier, especially when you're conveying things to a client. But so in that way, yes, it is helpful. But when it comes to like detailing, design, just like feeling the space, I think that a human touch is required.
You agree and disagree.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to agree because it's about the part where it's mass produced. Yes,
Yeah.
so I think over there, I agree completely. But like her, I'll also disagree that I think when it's bespoke or when you have a human element, it is going to change the whole game. It's going to be hard for them to compete for a couple of years at least.
They can make design less human if you forget the intuition bit of it.
Nice.
Right. So if you just use AI and think that it's going to be okay not to use your own intuition and the feeling that it visiting a site has evoked in you, then yes, it's going to be less human. But if you keep the intuition intact, then it's just purely a tool.
Thank you for that absolutely incredible conversation and those wonderful answers. Before we sign off, I would like for you to address our audiences and just give a point of advice or anything you'd like to share with our viewers.
I think design practices do not have to be of a certain style, and that doesn't have to be part of your identity as a designer. You can choose to do different styles and still be true to yourself as a designer.
I think as humans, we evolve so much as we move through life, and it's kind of like a flow, And I think that's exactly how our design practices ideally should also be. You do evolve as you move through life, and it's not necessary to stick to a certain, fixed path. Like make your own path. It's completely fine.
It's always the hard way. Design looks quite glamorous, plenty to introspect. Hence, kindly introspect, retrospect, and dream big.
Yeah, I would say don't look for styles and trends, and just look for meaning and purpose, and you'll just land in the right place.
I love that. If different styles feel right to you, you should just do it. Do not go by what everyone else is doing.
Thank you for watching Season 1, Episode 1 of Mono Dialogues, brought to you by our brand partners, Classic Marble Company. See you soon.